This week's episode takes me back to Europe to explore metal's most over-the-top subgenre, power metal. Power metal is known for its high vocals, epic song arrangements, and Dungeons & Dragons-like band names like Manowar, Hammerfall, and Blind Guardian. It's a metal style that's hugely popular in Europe and seems to bear all of the hallmarks of traditional heavy metal. But oddly, this subgenre is completely alien to me. So what exactly is this thing called power metal, and why has this style remained so mysterious? My exploration of power metal takes me deep into the heart of Slovenia, a tiny European country on the eastern edge of the Alps. Slovenia is home to Metal Camp, an annual 3-day celebration of all things power metal.
We are the epic metal warriors from Austria, Austrian metal empire. For honor, glory, strength, beauty, and wisdom.
We're trying to understand what the hell power metal is, because when I grew up, I didn't know what this is. It didn't exist in Canada. How would you describe power metal, the sound of it?
Girlish. Lots of people who go to festivals have girlfriends and they need a band to show the girlfriend to.
It's called power metal because everybody can scream with it. Strong and fast music with very high vocals.
So why isn't it just called heavy metal? How would you define power metal? What is it?
Very easy melodies, very happy melodies. So melodies that you can sing along. Some people still call melodic power metal happy metal.
I was playing Dress Up, this loud, obnoxious, fun music, the studs and armor plating and stuff like this. And I mean, that's part of the fun.
Power metal, you want to get everybody involved. Every power metal band that enters a stage wants the audience to sing along with them. It's more important than to bang their heads or to, play air guitar.
You see the crowd locked in arms, singing along. It's not an embarrassing thing to be singing along to riffs or solos or lyrics at a power metal show. It's like a big beer hall, soccer hall chant sort of situation.
Strong element of power metal is this joyous sing-along. It's important to have that feeling of the crowd being with you.
When we compose songs, this is what we have in mind, You want to have a sort of sing-along which people easily can relate to.
It's amazing, you start playing the show and everybody in the audience is singing every single word, and it still gives me goosebumps, it's pure magic.
When people go out to a pub in Germany and they have 10 beers, the stuff they can sing must be very simple, as melodic as possible, so everybody can join in, and that's what we call Schlager, and everybody in Germany grew up with that stuff.
You see people who are dressed up in battle gear and all of these kinds of things.
That has to do with our history. People looking back to their traditions because they believe in them, because it's just cool to show. If you think of Swedish or Norwegian metal fans, Vikings are really part of their history, a history of horns and swords.
hear this kind of strange European alchemy going on. You hear melodies, you hear little hints of classical things happening.
Classical music of the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. Many European fans, even if they are rock fans or metal fans, somehow have in their blood. It's something that you hear from parents, from aunts and uncles.
Bach, Paganini, these were the first metalliers. For sure, the emotional impact that they were transmitting through the use of the giant orchestras is the same that you can get from a metal band.
There's clearly a strong link between power metal and traditional European music and culture, and this is beginning to explain why this style is so foreign to me. But power metal also emerged in the 1990s, when thrash and glam metal were dead, and more mainstream subgenres like grunge were exploding.
Grunge music was all about not being a rock star, not being cool, not being in a party mood, not celebrating what you love.
Classic metal had gotten a bit stale. If you were a band that was playing this kind of classic metal, you were seen as like a dinosaur and something completely out of fashion. It was tough times. It was a time of confusion.
Everybody was saying heavy metal is dead, and I think somehow the crowd was missing this kind of approach, this kind of traditional metal, and they were just looking for a band to come and play that sound.
Take me back to when you guys first started and describe to me, why was it important to you to create the style of music that Hammerfall plays?
We created Hammerfall so that we would have something fun, because nobody else did anything on stage or at concerts or albums that we thought was fun. Everything around us was what we did not want music to be. We basically created the band that we wanted to listen to and watch play live ourselves.
Why do you guys think you made that really quite immediate impact?
The metal community was wanting this without even knowing it, probably. I don't think we even expected it until we went on stage for the first time in Germany, Wacken Open Air in '97. Then that's when we realized, wow, people were actually ready for this type of music.
Beating the call, one and for all. Never surrender, the glory will fall. Brothers unite, let's stand up and fight. Fulfilling our fate, we are heeding the call.
Hammerfall were one of the first bands to bring back rivets and the leather on stage. That's something that, of course, in the grunge times would have been laughable for most of the fans and most of the bands.
What you have is a band saying, we're not going to apologize for any of these cliches anymore. These cliches actually served a whole lot of bands well for 15 or 20 years, and they're going to serve us well, damn it.
When Hammerfall entered the German charts, heavy metal broke out big again, and they sold a lot of records. Of course, other bands were signed too, from Finland, from Belgium, from Holland, from France. The time was ripe for heavy metal to come back, for real heavy metal to come back.
I now have a better understanding of why Hammerfall and the power metal scene made such a huge impact in Europe during the 90s. But I'm still uncertain about power metal's connection to the history of heavy metal music. What exactly was power metal attempting to revive?
The time has come, get ready to fight. Sisters and brothers in metal unite. The dreams that you had are about to come true. The voice of the warrior is calling for you.
Power metal is a subgenre that revived classic heavy metal's obsession with fantasy and European folklore. But this obsession didn't start with bands like Hammerfall. The band that pioneered fantasy metal was Rainbow.
Look away from the sea. I can take you anywhere. Spend a vision with me. A chase with the wind.
So I'm revisiting the interview I did with Rainbow's legendary vocalist, Ronnie James Dio, 5 years before his untimely death in 2010, to understand how he laid the groundwork for the power metal lyrical style.
I read at such an early age and read all about dragons and knights and damsels in distress and great science fiction works. I was just, well, I've got to create what these images are, not myself. That's so cool. I decided to put all the things that I wrote in this kind of fantasy area, which made you have to think, what is he talking about? Oh, he said that? Well, I wonder what that looks like. I wanted people to have to use their imagination the way I did and create their own dragons.
You can see, but you're blind. Someone turn the sun around. What you can see in your mind, the gates of Babylon.
Rainbow is a direct influence on modern power metal. Probably the main reason would be Ronnie James Dio as a lyricist and this world that he creates of fantasy through songs like Temple of the King, Kill the King, Stargazer, Light in the Black. It's legend and myth, medieval times, Renaissance times.
When you think of the power metal bands, Ronnie James Dio was like a prototype of a lead singer. He was able to define the whole thing of being the singer hero as opposed to a guitar hero.
Ronnie's way of storytelling was really amazing. Everything was left to imagination. It was like painting pictures in somebody else's head.
I've always been a big fantasy fan, and he brought it into hard rock and metal music. Yeah. And the horns. Dio brought the horns. Not the Vikings. No.
Sleep with the devil and then you must pray. Sleep with the devil will take you away.
Evil is a great subject. The symbolism, which is incredible for artwork, for stage presentation. It goes well with black leather and chains and lights and pyrotechnics. It's just a perfect medium for it. Evil is something that we know about but don't understand why it happens and don't really ever meet up with the devil. So again, it's kind of having to use your own imagination.
The power of what has been before rises to trap you within. A magic coming right at genie, maybe more. Into your heavenly sin.
While Dio established the power metal lyrical style, the singer who created the blueprint for the power metal vocal delivery was Judas Priest's Rob Halford. Earlier in this series, I explored Priest's role in forging the heavy metal identity. But what was innovative about their music and Rob's approach to metal vocals?
All life, I'm gonna live it up. Taking the flame, I sit down, never getting up. I'm a younger kind of proud.
I'm always looking to try and experiment. You just want to do as many things as you can possibly do, and you always want to go to 11. You do. Before inner-ear monitors, before any decent monitors, you had to scream your throat out just to hear yourself on stage. You know, you're battling against all that volume. I mean, you can't lay back. You've just got to, you've got to rip your throat out.
You gotta know the thing coming.
All of us headbangers as kids, we would sit around and listen to that and go, is this even metal? It was so foreign because Rob Halford was classical, studied, singing high almost all the time. Without Rob Halford, you wouldn't have Ralph Scheepers from Primal Fear. You wouldn't have Timo Codipelto from Stradivarius. Basically, the characteristic power metal vocal, almost to the point where it's not power metal if you don't have